There's a town in the land of Judah. The Bible calls it Bethlehem Ephrathah. This town is famous for a few reasons, but most of all, people remember it because this is where Jesus was born. And the Bible has quite a few things to say about it. It's first written about in Genesis chapter 35 and verse 19. We read that this is where Rachel, after she died, she was buried on the way to Bethlehem. It's mentioned a few times afterwards, but the Bible doesn't really focus on it all that much until we get to the book of Ruth. And in Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, it's written, "Now it came about, when the judges governed, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the land of Moab with his wife and his 2 sons." The book of Ruth records that this man, Elimelech, his wife Naomi, left Bethlehem and went to Moab with their 2 sons. The 2 sons married, but later all the men of the house died, leaving behind Ruth, Naomi, and Orpah. Orpah left, and leaving Ruth and Naomi to travel to the one place Naomi would have been familiar with, Bethlehem. They went there. Ruth found work with Boaz, eventually marrying the man and creating the lineage that we now know, the lineage of David, the one that bore the kings of Israel and later the Messiah. David was found by Samuel in Bethlehem, was anointed king over Israel, and from him began the lineage that brought forth the Christ. It's written this in Micah chapter 5 and verse 2. "But as for you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you one will go forth for me to be a ruler in Israel. His going forth are from long ago, from the days of eternity." This was a prophetic word, talking about Jesus the Christ. It was fulfilled years later, whenever Jesus was brought into this earth from Mary and Joseph. Mary and Joseph traveled to Bethlehem through a providential act of God. There was a census in the land which carried them from Nazareth all the way to Bethlehem, which is where Jesus was born. Bethlehem, even though it's a small town, it left a great impact on that part of the land. If for no other reason than the Son of God was born there. God uses people and events, and as we've seen, he even uses places to bring about his will. Bethlehem is well known today, but years ago, it was foretold to be a big part of history. It's because of this that many people have sought to lift it up and restore it to whatever glory they think it should have, but when in reality, brethren, what we should do, instead of looking at the place, we should look at the man that came from the place. Let's continue to focus on living like Jesus.